Previously on Blend.
And for me to throw that all away and say, because of this, I'm not going to do it again. No, I can't. I can't do that. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to look at myself the same way again. Like, if I just let something like this prevent me from moving on and doing what I love to do. Hello and good evening. You're listening to your number one electronic music station in God knows where. This is Lázougi Life, and you're listening to Blend Episode 2 here on Lázougi Life. It is always a pleasure to have you join us today as we go into our topics of conversation, as we talk and dissect various areas of conversation that I'll be bringing to the table today for us to really chew on. For us to chew on, for us to feed ourselves with, and to learn a lot as we always tend to do here on Blend. And of course, we've got electronic music lined up for our entertainment for us to really enjoy ourselves today on this episode of Blend. I want to say thank you and I want to say welcome, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. It's a pleasure that it's a pleasure and it's wonderful that we get to do this once again and we get to chill this very wonderful Friday evening. My name is Lázougi, and on this episode of Blend, like I said, we'll be talking a lot and of course listening to electronic music. In case you're just tuning in for the first time and in case you're just listening for the first time, here on Blend we tend to analyze social issues in order to better understand, to have a better understanding of the way society works by dissecting the social conventions that govern society. That is, we tend to look at these social issues and get an in-depth understanding of these things happening in society, of the way society works, in order for us to really have a better understanding of society and how to navigate ourselves within society in order to become better people. Also, yeah, we also share a lot of ideas. We tend to share ideas. We tend to rub minds together, you and I, in order for us to better understand each other and for us to create this bond that we share and to really get to the point where we have a much more better understanding of ourselves. So let's get into it, okay? Earlier last week, I told you that is, I came online to tell you that I was working on some upgrades and I was working on making our our thumbnail more more dynamic and less static. Okay, what I meant then was I wanted something that moved, at least something more animated. But when I decided to go for the equipment, or should I say, I keep calling them equipment, software to utilize to be able to put together this animation, I found that my system, in terms of computing power, is unable to really work perfectly, is unable to function perfectly with those heavy duty softwares. And the only software I'm having right now is GIMP, and I'm unable to use any other software. I got Blender to create animations, but I wasn't able to utilize it. I wasn't able to install it. It was asking for some graphic card upgrades and all of that. So, but I like what we have now. I like it because it's minimal. It's not distracting. I mentioned something along that line last week that I wanted something very minimal, not too distracting. And as you know, you're here to listen, you're here to listen, and we're here to experience audio in new, innovative, and new exciting ways. And as a radio station, that is our primary focus. And I know that as we grow and as we get better, we'll continue to evolve. So that is it about that. And in case you were wondering, and okay, um, what have you been up to regarding that? I'm gonna be keeping it this way, okay, for now, and we'll focus on what we came here to do, and that is delivering a very, very wonderful and exciting audio experience for us to enjoy. On Now, let's get into our topic of conversation today and the reason why we're here. We have a lot of topics to cover, a lot of ground to cover, but we're going to be starting off with something that happened, something really significant that I'd say happened during this past couple of months, and I would like to really talk about it and really get in depth into it. And I'm talking about the ban on Huawei, that is the Google ban on Huawei, and I find it very interesting. And according to The Verge, it is one of the most dramatic moments in the history of Android, and I quite agree with them. Okay, I really agree with them because something of this nature hasn't happened before, and this is the first time it's setting a precedent for a lot more to occur in the near future or in the far distant future. And in case you're wondering, or you're not too abreast about this situation, Google has suspended. Ooh, it's really cold. It's really, really cold. It's about 11:46 p.m. and it rained a lot this afternoon, and what the weather is freezing. Like I'm almost I'm almost shaking right here. I have my sweater on, by the way, and of course my socks. Yeah, I have all of that on in order to keep myself really warm. I don't want this cold to affect my voice right now. But let's move on, okay? And Google has suspended its business with Huawei, the technological company. And as a result of them suspending their business with Huawei due to the ban due to the United States blacklisting Huawei as a threat to national security and putting them on a blacklist, this ban effectively makes Huawei lose all access to Android services. That is, to cut the long story short, it makes Huawei lose access because of this suspension of business with Huawei. Google has revoked all of Huawei's access to their Google Play services and their Google Play Store services. Effectively, what this means is that going forward, although existing phones will not be affected, but future updates and future Huawei phones will suffer because they will not be able to have access to the latest Android OS and all of the services that come with this latest Android OS. So that is to say, all phones that already have this current OS within them would not be affected. But once updates start rolling in, we start to see that a lot of these Huawei phones will not be able to have access to it like their competitors. And my mom offered me tea. I wonder, I was too lazy to go make it. Okay, like I should have really, really taken up on that offer. And man, it's really, really cold, especially at this time. So what this essentially means is now. What this essentially means is that due to this suspension of, and or should we call it a ban, but due to this situation now, it essentially means that Huawei is just selling hardware without the much needed integration, without the much needed Android integration. So basically, what they are just selling is just the hardware, and without that, without Google's Android, without their OS, most of these phones will be unable to function. Okay, so you understand? Whoa. So most of these phones will be unable to function without this OS, without Google's OS. So my observation, or what I want to really get, what I really want to dissect, and what I want us to look into today or on this episode of Blend is the way forward for Huawei. Can you imagine that this company who was on the verge of becoming the biggest smartphone maker in the world, or perhaps the most innovative? Yes, that is the word, because they are very hell bent on innovation. They were about to outpace Samsung before this whole situation happened. And why I okay, yeah, I haven't told you the topic. And the topic, sorry about that. The topic is Huawei victim of circumstance. So we're gonna look at Huawei. We're gonna look at Huawei, and because why I say they're a victim of circumstance is this trade war, this ongoing trade war happening between the US and China. This ongoing trade war has seen a lot of companies suffer because of these two governments, these two global superpowers coming together to in this war of of in this trade war. So a lot of companies, both left and right, both in China and United States, are suffering as a result of this ongoing trade war, and UI is one of its latest victims. So without Google's OS, without Google's OS, Huawei will be unable to sell their phones because they need an OS to be able to sell their phones. So what is the next step for them? What is the next step for them? According to The Verge, because that is where I'm getting this information from, they have hinted at the possibility of making their own OS, which is a good move. if you look at it on paper. But if you look at it closely, if you look at it and if you take a closer look at it and you ask yourself, do they have the potential of going global or making a better OS than what we currently have with Google Android? Yes, that is there's a possibility that they can do that. There's a possibility that they can make a much better OS that incorporates the latest 5G technology that they are currently working on. Because if you have been a recipient of this information circulating around now, that your Huawei is at the forefront of the whole 5G technology. So they are the forefront of it, and for them to be able to make a better OS that incorporates their own 5G technology, that makes use of 5G technology, will be something that they can attempt, and they can very well be very successful at it. But the problem with this move that I want us to really look into is that it requires a lot of sacrifice. And we talked about sacrifices last week, and there is this sacrifice they would have to make in order to be able to do this. In order for them to be able to make an OS that can very well surpass Google's Android. The problem is, the question is, are they willing to make this sacrifice, and at what cost will it cost a company like that to make these necessary sacrifices that can take them to the next level, that can take them far beyond their very expectations, if they are able to make an OS that surpasses Google. But at what cost? What are the necessary sacrifices they would have to make? And are they willing to make those necessary sacrifices? So these are questions that we'll be answering on this episode of Blend. And of course, we'll be looking into other areas of conversation as the show progresses, and we'll be getting to learn a lot and to really understand the way a lot of these things work. And also, we'll be taking home a lot of information and a lot of good music with us as we get on with the show. Speaking of good music, in order for us to whet our appetite for what is coming next, that is this conversation of ours, I've got a song right here loaded up and ready, locked down and ready to go. That is to hit your speakers. So this song that I'm gonna be playing for you is titled "There's a Monkey in My Head." Enjoy this one. When we come back from this music break, there is more talk as always, more music and more conversation here on your number one electronic music station in God knows where. Enjoy this one. There was a monkey in my head. Spiritually fit so that you can always find it in yourself, to go deep. Mentally fit so that you're listening to Blend. Welcome back from that music break. The song that we listened to was titled There's a Monkey in My Head. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you had a wonderful time listening to that one. There's more music to come later on during this podcast, so sit tight and keep stay tuned in. Okay, keep your dial on the station. I'm just kidding. Okay, so before that music break, we were having a conversation, and our conversation, the topic of which is titled Hawaii. I hope that's the correct pronunciation. Hawaii, you. Okay, you know what? That's it. We just stick with that. And you are a victim of circumstance. So that's what we are talking about on this episode of Blend. And our focus on this episode is what is the next move for this technological company? What is the next move? And how can they maneuver this current situation that they find themselves in and come out on top? How are they able to do something that nobody has ever done? Because we haven't seen anything like this before. This is the first precedent. And what we currently have right now is that because of this situation, their their phone manufacturing business will definitely be on hold, at least till the US and China come to a conclusion, or perhaps a settlement that will be favorable to both parties. So, but they have hinted at the possibility of them making their own OS, their own operating system. And I know that if they attempt to do that, they will definitely have to do something that will surpass Google's Android. And a lot of OSs before now have come and gone. We have BlackBerry OS, we have Tizen, we have a lot of OSs that have tried to compete with Google's OS, that is Android, and have failed. And let us look at this this idea of them creating their own OS a little bit closer. Okay, and I want you to be part of this conversation as always, and to be part of this conversation to weigh in with your suggestions, with your contributions, with your thought process, your ideas, everything that you want to share on this station. All you have to do is simply make use of the live chat box right here on your YouTube application. As we progress during this conversation, every of your contributions are very, 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 very well appreciated, and to give us a better understanding of the situations that we are dissecting and analyzing here on Blend. Okay, so thank you for doing that. Thank you for being part of this podcast, and thank you very much as always for tuning in to your number one electronic music station in God knows where. So here is my no, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, here's my thought process. If they go on with this plan, or for their own OS, it's gonna backfire. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why I think that. I think it's gonna backfire in a very big way. So how did I come to this, this conclusion? Let us look at let us look at some some what I call it now, some recent occurrences that will point us to the answers, and will give us a much more understanding, and give us clues about what's going on. So let us start with this. We all know China's, and we're all familiar with China's antecedents, and how they are very, very, very hell bent on monitoring their own citizens. So I have this article open right here. It's from, here's another word I can't really pronounce. I'm sorry. Like I have all the links in the description. Okay, I'm very, very, very bad at pronouncing some certain words, but it's um it's a media what do you call this, publication that I really media company that I like very much, and I like their content. And I think it's called Cats or something. I'm not really sure. QUARTZ. And okay, let us look at this article. So it says China is launching a dystopian program. Sorry about that. I apologize. It's the gremlins. The gremlins have I've started again. Okay, I had to fix something right there quickly. Let us move on. So there's this article right here that I'm having on my screen. It's from this media house, and it's China is launching a dystopian program to monitor citizens in Beijing. The long and short of it, because we're not going to go into the details. Like I said, I have the links of all the articles that we are looking into right here, right there in the descriptions. Okay, so in case you want to check out these articles, you can do so after the broadcast. Okay, so right here it says China is taking a big step towards expanding a controversial program that judges and punishes individuals based on their social behavior. Let's move on to the way it works. It's relatively straightforward. People who follow the government rules and exhibit pro-social behaviors, such as donating blood, will earn a good social credit and be rewarded with so-called green channel benefits, such as easier access to job applications and gyms. Those who violate laws, including traffic laws, will pay a hefty price, according to the government announcement. This can include being blocked from things that include ordering plane and train tickets. So how does this work? Okay, so what else? What else can we find out? How does this work? The program will work. Okay, so this is where we get to it. The program will work by pulling information from several different government agencies and transit authorities using tracking technology linked to citizens who are increasingly part of a technological network comprised of cell phones and social apps such as WeChat and Alipay. So that is our first clue right here, to really understand if this move of them creating their own OS is going to be beneficial for them. Why I say this is our first clue is that we all know the Chinese government antecedents and how they are very, very well bent on monitoring their citizens on monitoring their citizens. Okay, so they're very well versed in this, and we look at WeChat, social apps like WeChat. WeChat is a messaging application, and it is possible and very, very possible that they have access and can see everything that their citizens are communicating via these platforms, and also on Alipay, so they can see what their citizens are communicating with one another, and also their financial transactions. That is scary. Okay, so now we look at a company like Huawei, and don't you think it is very, very possible that if they create their own access, the they create their own OS, it is possible that if they create their own OS, the Chinese government will definitely have access to the information that is passing through this. And definitely we will also, I'm just asking questions here for us to really get an understanding of what is happening right there. If they create their own OS, it is very, very possible that the Chinese government will be able to monitor some certain aspects of the day-to-day operations, and how this OS works. The Chinese government will most likely, let me use that word, most likely have access to it. And that is something that, in order for them to go global, in order for them to create an OS that will definitely, or in order for them to create an OS that will possibly surpass Google's OS, that is Android, they can't have a situation where they have that kind of access to the information that is coming through this OS. They can't have a situation like that. So it is possible that they would have to forfeit. They would have to forfeit that is Chinese government will have to let go of that desire or that need to have access to this information in order for Huawei's proposed OS, to go global. That is, in order for the OS to reach the kind of reach that Google has all over the world right now, they can't have that OS being monitored by the Chinese government. And the question is that something that the Chinese government is willing to relinquish? Is that something that the Chinese government is willing to relinquish? Is that something that they are willing to let go of? And imagine them having access to this kind of information on a massive scale, like on a global scale. And it's something that the Chinese government can possibly can possibly handle. But it is also something that other countries, other nations will not want to be part of, considering that we already know what the Chinese government is capable of doing. So Huawei is in that position where they are unable to use Google's OS, Android, and if they jolly well create their own OS, if they go on to create their own OS, other countries will not want to be part of that, knowing that the Chinese government might possibly have a hand in it. Okay, and the US have already stated their suspicions. And where is that? Okay, there's a point here in this article where it states that the US government has already stated their suspicions that Huawei is just a hand of the Chinese government. So is that something that you think the Chinese government will want to relinquish, that kind of information on a global scale? No. That is my take, okay? So let me know what you think. That is my take. My take is that I don't think they are going to let Huawei do something like that without having a hand in it, without wanting to at least know how. No, without having it. I mean, if they can have access to WeChat and all of the messages that the citizens are communicating with one another, and can also see their financial transactions, how much more, what is stopping them from doing it on a global scale, using this proposed OS that Huawei is trying to build? You see, what is stopping them? Not much, not very much. Because if they can get as far as they've gotten now, nothing is going to stop them from pushing it further. And every other country, now that Huawei is on the blacklist already, is suspicious of them. So them coming out to say that they're going to build their own OS is like trying to reassure themselves in a bad situation and trying to say, well, it's not as bad as you guys make it out to be. It's really, really bad for you guys, okay? Like, they're in a situation where they can't use Google's OS. And if they try to build their own, it's not going to take off. It's not going to take off as quickly. It's going to take some years to build up. It's going to take some time before developers embrace it. And another thing that we should also consider is, let's say hypothetically the Chinese government, let's say they relinquish and say, okay, we are not going to track this data. We're not going to look at what this OS, the data coming through this OS. Okay, just Google already tracks everything happening on your Android phone. You know that already. We all know that. Like, privacy is an illusion in today's world. We all know that Google tracks a lot of our data. Google already does that. Okay, so there's nothing that's going to stop them from doing that as well. And definitely they always want to surpass whatever the Western world is doing. Think about it, okay? They always want to surpass it. So if Google is doing it to the extent that Google is doing it, definitely they want to push it to an extent that is unprecedented. Here's why I say it will backfire. Number one, other countries will be very suspicious of them. And let's just say hypothetically the Chinese government decides not to pray into the information coming through this OS. And let's say they do it like Apple. Apple is or was very, very, very known for their tight security, to the extent that they use it as a marketing campaign that, look, your data is safe, nobody's going to have access to it. Let's say China, or let's say they decide to replicate something like that. What's stopping the Chinese people from adopting that OS? Knowing that, okay, if they use it, their data is safe. Understand what I mean? What's stopping their own people from deciding to adopt Huawei's proposed OS and say we're going to use this OS because our data is safe? So they're going to use it, but as a result of that, definitely the Chinese government will lose something on the other hand, and that is the ability to also track its own people. You can't just come out and say, okay, we are going to make we're going to make an OS, knowing the kind of government they have in their backyard. Okay, knowing that their government always wants to peer into whatever is happening within the country. They always, I saw this information that they have about 200 million cameras in that country, like 200 million cameras monitoring everything, and it's probably more. I don't know who counted it though, but it's probably more than that. So they will take it to the next level, and privacy for us here in the Western world is a big deal, or globally it's a big deal. Anything, any platform, any OS, whatever, anything coming out now has to take privacy very, very serious. You understand? They have to take privacy very, 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 very seriously. So it's a deal breaker for many people. It's a deal breaker. Once they realize that your platform, your application, whatever it is having privacy issues and a lot of that, there's a loss of trust in your product and whatever it is you're doing. So looking at this whole thing surrounding this technological company, looking at Huawei and everything that is happening with them right now, the only thing that will probably get them out of this mess is if the US and China come to an agreement that is favorable to both sides, and as a result of that, perhaps the ban or the black or the ban will be lifted on them, and they can resume their activities, or they can resume whatever it is that Google has in stock for them on their hardware. Anything short of this, the idea of them building an OS is, it's what we call sensationalism. Like it's just great, like, news. It's not something that I would take seriously. I know that they have the possibility of them succeeding at doing something even way better, but That sacrifice is way too much. Well, I think for them actually, it's something that I don't see the Chinese government doing. That is relinquishing that hold on their companies, that need and desire for them to monitor whatever is happening there. If Huawei decides to go global, if Huawei decides to make something that will have the kind of reach that Google has, it has to do it incorporating privacy to the highest degree. And that is something that the Chinese are not known for. The Chinese governments are not known for. If you were, let's say, if you were UI now, like you are we, okay, hopefully, if you were in their shoes, what would you advise them to do? Looking at all we have shared and all that, so all the drama that surrounds them, because currently now their existing phones still have the most recent, or yeah, perhaps Android services working for them. But future phones and future updates of Android will cease to work on Huawei phones. And it's something that they will have to sit and watch their competitors have access to these latest updates, these latest Android services, and they will be unable to catch up with them. So let me know your thoughts. If you were in your shoes, if you were part of the people making decisions in that company, or if you had a if you have an idea of what step to take, what if you were the one in charge, what would you propose to them right now? What do you think they can do to get out of this mess? Let me know right there in the YouTube live chat box. Okay, make use of the live chat box right here on your YouTube application to share your contributions, to share all of your observations, and to share your thoughts right here on your number one electronic music station in God knows where. Let us move on to something else, okay? Let us move on to other areas and other topics, other points of discussion. And now I would like to share an observation of mine, and I'm just going to introduce the topic. We're going to go for another music break, and when we come back, we'll talk about it some more, okay? And I'm talking about the need for people to compare themselves. And, or let me start this way. Are you the kind of person who doesn't like being compared with other people? or you don't like to compare yourself with other people. A lot of people these days say they don't want to be compared with other people, they want to be different, they want to be themselves. And whenever somebody else compares them to other people, they take offense, or they be like, no, okay, I don't want you to compare me, I don't compare myself to other people. But at the same time, some of these people also, hello there, some of these people also, some of these people also in the various areas of in the various occupations, or in their areas of creative activity, they want to be the best, or they have this desire to be the best, or perhaps they know that they are the best in their various fields, in their fields of play. But at the same time, such people don't like to be compared with other people. My question is, how then do you come to the conclusion? That is, if you're the kind of person that falls into this category, you know you're the best you know you're the best in your field, but at the same time, you don't want to be compared to anybody. But how do you come to this? How did you come to this conclusion then that you're the best? How did you come to the conclusion then that you're the best? We'll talk about it some more after this music break, okay? When we do come back from this one, on your number one electronic music station, of course, we'll be talking some more. We're going in depth into this conversation now. This topic of conversation, I will stretch it out a little bit further when we come back from this music break, so that we can really understand it better, okay? This song that you're going to be listening to is titled Disaster. So enjoy this one. When we come back from it, it's more talk, more music, and more conversation. Your number one electronic music station in God knows. My name is Lázougi, and I'll see you right after this music break. The song is titled Disaster. welcome back from that music break. You're listening to your number one electronic music station in God knows where. My name is Lázougi and I am your host for this episode of Blend. Yeah, Lázougi Live. This is Blend episode 2, and our topic of conversation has been buttered around the technological company Huawei and the current situation that they find themselves in as regards to their suspension of their license and ability to have access to Google Play services and Google Play Store services, in essence, making them unable to have the latest versions of the Android OS on their future phones, which effectively puts them out of business. Look, okay, that is the possibility. There's a possibility of that happening. That over time we would have this situation where the US and China don't come to a quick conclusion or settlement, and people just move on. That sort of thing. Because I find that in today's fast-paced technological environment, in today's fast-paced technological world, you have to move very fast. The technology moves very, very fast now, and definitely somebody is somewhere capitalizing on whatever is happening to Huawei, because they were on the verge of becoming the world biggest smartphone company, way ahead of Samsung, and this happened. But let us keep our fingers crossed. You never know, okay? Like I said, it is quite significant because it is unprecedented. It has not happened. Something like this has not happened before. And I'm looking closely at it to know what comes next, okay? And definitely, if anything comes, whatever happens next, I'm going to be keeping you abreast, as always, be giving you all of this juicy information that will keep you in the loop of things. The song that we listened to right there during the music break is titled, or was titled, Disaster. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you had a wonderful time listening to that one, and I hope you immersed yourself greatly in that one. So before then, I introduced the topic comparing ourselves, and I I I find that there are some people on one hand who don't like being compared to other people, but on the other hand, they say that they are the best at what they do, and they make it known. Some of them are not so modest about it. So you see this double-faced contradiction somewhere, where the person says, no, 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 don't compare me to that guy, don't compare me to that person. But the next day, he's making it known to everybody in the office that he's there's always that kind of person. And I look at this, I look at this person and I ask, okay, how do you come to that conclusion that you're the best if you don't want to be compared to others? Because there's certainly no way you can do that. It's like eating your cake and having it at the same time. In order for you to come to that conclusion that, okay, I'm the best at what I do, in order for me to come to that conclusion, I definitely have to look at what everybody else is doing and compare it to what I'm doing. You understand? And sometimes that's not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing looking at everybody and comparing yourself to them, even if you come out on top. Because what I find now is it puts a lot of pressure on people, especially in today's world. Like, it puts a lot of pressure on people because of social media. Everybody, I've never seen anything like this before. Man, I've never seen anything like this before. It's on one hand, it's amazing for the kind of person I am, because dark humor. I just find it very, very funny. and I catch a lot of clues from all these things happening. But on the other hand, it's scary because you never know where it's going to end up next. You never know, and there have been a lot of consequences. There have been a lot of victims from this social media craze. And sometimes it starts from comparing ourselves to others, even if when we come out on top. It does something to us inside over time when we do that. You understand? When we're constantly looking outside and comparing ourselves to others. But then there's that need for us to be the best. You understand? There's that need for us to excel. There's that need for us to come out on top. But that's the irony of things, that before we can give ourselves that assurance, we have to look at other people. And sometimes we don't like looking at other people. And we still need that gratification. We still need that voice in our head telling us, yeah, okay, you're the best. So it's like a conflict of interest. No, I don't want to look at what other people are doing, but I want to be it's like that sometimes. So how can we avoid how can we avoid letting this get to us? This need to always always feel gratification. How do we get ourselves out of that loop? And I think rather than trying to be the best in comparison to everybody else, we can choose to be the best version of ourselves. So that way, you at least you're, should I say, keeping a balance. Like, okay, that person or that voice in your, or that side of you that doesn't want to compare yourself with other people, that side of you is not violated, and you be like, okay, I stuck with what I wanted to do. I don't compare myself, but at the same time, you are the best. But in this case, the best version of yourself. I don't know if I'm making sense. The thing is, there's positive and there's sometimes negative comparisons, but like there's always a positive and negative side to things. One of the positive comparisons that might seem like it's a positive, but when you look at it closely, you also discover that it's not it's not that much helpful in the long run. For example, I cringe sometimes when my mom says, or when she's praying, parents, they do this, and she says, you'll be better than your peers, you're better than your friends. I cringe inside. I'm like, mom. No, she means well, okay? If you look at it, she means well. They all mean well when they say that. I know perhaps your parents might have said that to you sometime. Like, I want you to be better than your friends. And you say she say it, or he will say it with all passion. And he means it, or she means it. But is that what we should really want? Is that what we want? Or is that what we should want, to be better than our friends? Is that what we want? Because it puts unnecessary pressure on ourselves when we're constantly doing that. There's something I learned Sorry about that. I couldn't get myself. I wasn't sure if my voice was transmitting. I had to do a double check right there, and I'm glad that so far so good. I hope you've been having an amazing time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. There's still one more song coming right up, and I'll be wrapping up with that. But for now, let me finish with what I was saying. I would like to wrap up with this, and then we'll move on to the music break, and we'll call it a day. And definitely I'll be seeing you next week. Okay, so just there's still uh, more more of the goodies. Okay. So like I was saying, do we constantly need to do that? Do we have to put ourselves in that position? And I would say no, because we can choose to be the best version of ourselves. And we can choose to be the best version of ourselves. And as I was about to say, there's something I learned about friendships this past couple of, should I say, days, months, years. But there's not enough time for us to really go into that right now. But I find that I find that it's very difficult to move away from friendships or from relationships you have with people, like to put a stop to it. It's quite difficult to do that, and there is no right way. I don't know if there's a right way to do it, but I'll get into that on our next episode of Blend. I'll talk about it, and I will share my thoughts, of course, and of course let you in on the gist. And definitely we'll also have more conversations in our subsequent episode of Blend. I hope you've had an amazing time. We've gone way past the 1 hour mark, but that's not an issue. Okay, I'm having a wonderful time doing this with you, and I'm enjoying myself, and I hope that you too are enjoying yourself and you're having an amazing time. Like I was to be really really honest, I was a bit frightened when I was making bizarre step, because I was coming back from this break, that very long break, and I wasn't sure if I if I could do this anymore. Like I wasn't really, but that for me is a takeaway, is a lesson that I learned from doing the same thing every day. Like just doing the same thing every day and doing it over and over and just doing it. It's something that I learned from it. Just being able to sit down. Like that's all it takes, honestly. Just sit down and do what you love. Okay. So this is where we'll be drawing the curtains on this episode of Blend. This is where we'll be drawing the curtains, but don't you worry, next week of course we'll be having Blend episode 3 here on your number one electronic music station in God knows where. My name is Lázougi, and it has been an amazing time. I once again want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this episode. Thank you for sharing your thoughts to those lovely people who tuned in, and to what's his name? Somebody sent me a message, but I can't really translate this. I'll have to do this later. Honestly, thank you. Your name is BNDERX. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but anyway, thanks. I really appreciate it. So, thank you, lovely people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to your number one electronic music station in God knows where. This has been Blend episode 2. Next week we'll be having Blend episode 3. It's time for me to fly away and take my flight out of here. And with that, I'll be leaving you this song titled Flight while I fly away. Enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week on Blend episode 3 here on Lázougi Live, your number one electronic music station in God knows where. The song is titled Flight. Yeah, I almost forgot. If you're just tuning in and you haven't subscribed, yeah, don't forget to subscribe to your number one electronic music station in God knows where, and of course to also turn on the live notification bell right next to the subscribe button right after you subscribe, so that you can get our live notifications when we do go live for our podcast. Okay, so it is very, very, very important that you do that, because we are on a very, very flexible schedule. Our scheduling is very, very flexible, so you don't want to miss our broadcast, and you don't want to miss that. You have to hit that notification bell. Don't just subscribe, because YouTube has this thing of not delivering notifications. So kindly hit that notification bell, definitely, and we'll see you in our subsequent podcast here on Lázougi Life. Till then, have a wonderful weekend. Like I said earlier, enjoy yourself, take really good care of yourself. Most importantly, do what you love to do, and God bless you. Okay, I'm signing out. I'm still, no.